candidate at National University, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, traditional versus differentiated teaching styles, or progressive teaching styles, or new teaching styles. So I'm going to give you a scenario that I have for my assignment here, and then we are going to talk about it. So, in preparing for the opening of a new K-12 school, Bartlett Canyon Academy, it quickly becomes obvious to the principal that something different will be needed with instructional strategies. Bartlett Canyon Academy is drawing its highly diverse student population from local communities. Individual differences in educational backgrounds, special needs, and home environments are substantial. The principal, Ms. Patel, decides to approach her faculty. She says, "What is the best way to address our problem of such diverse learners?" She begins. Okay, pause. I want to stop right there for a second. Is diversity a problem? No, diversity is an asset. So if we can just reframe the question that she's asking, that would be a really good first start. Ms. Diaz, a seasoned sixth grade teacher, suggests that classes at each grade level be organized into tracks to create high, average, and low groups. Also, I think it's really important that we as educators change our language to make sure that we're using inclusive language when we're talking about our groups. So instead of using high, average, and low groups, we can just say we have a proficiency group or a group that is working towards proficiency, and then we can have a challenge group or an early finishers group who is further developing their understanding of the material. Each group then would work with the same teacher throughout the day. The plan makes sense, says Ms. Diaz. Teachers can work with students who have similar academic backgrounds. And students who do poorly will not be frustrated as they are left behind, while students who do well will not feel like they need to wait for others. Mr. Yang, one of the kindergarten teachers, disagrees. He says, "Students need to be exposed to a wide range of individual abilities, characteristics, talents, and so on. How can we ever help our students to appreciate their own uniqueness and diversity if we continually group them together in a way that is more convenient for us than for them?" So I have to say, when it comes to traditional teaching methods versus new ways of teaching, I've seen frustration on both sides, both from newer teachers being the minority, having a lack of peer understanding with other teachers and admin. And I've also seen the other side of things, where seasoned teachers are frustrated because change is difficult and confusing and overwhelming. So I just think it's important that we all do our best to come together and remember why we're all here, which is for our students. Okay, question number 1. Discuss the ideas presented by Ms. Patel, Ms. Diaz, and Mr. Yang regarding between class and within class grouping. So for this one, I wanted to pull a quote from Early Identification, Normal and Atypical Development. This was from idonline.org. The patterns of growth within different children can vary. Children who show strength in one area of development might be slower to develop skills than another. And I think this just further points to concerns around grouping an entire class of students with similar levels together. The way that I typically teach is I start off with a group warm-up first, and then the mini lesson, and then I'll have students break into heterogeneous groups where we have students of like more like challenging skill level with students that are becoming proficient in that skill. And I think it's important for them to work together, to ask questions, to explain concepts to each other, because it helps everyone learn. The students that get it right away, they can develop a further understanding of the knowledge by teaching it to another student or explaining it further. And the students that are struggling are able to communicate and collaborate with their peers. Um, I think it creates a really positive environment. What are the positives? So I would say for differentiated teaching, I really think that is the way to go, because it is fluid and it is possible to um, not only start off with like a mini lesson group work, but then we can also break up into like the latter half of the class. I can pull two groups where I can have like the challenge group or the early finishers, and then I can do like a reteaching or individualized review with students that need it explained in a way that is particular to their learning needs. What are the constraints or negatives that we saw in these examples? I wanted to pull a quote from the article Traditional versus Differentiated Assessments by WordPress. So they said student differences and varied needs are not considered in traditional assessments, because they focus on a single form of intelligence. And this can be really frustrating for a lot of students, especially those with disabilities, especially those coming from different cultures. Um, these tests were written by specific people, and if you are not of that language culture of the test writer, it can make it particularly challenging to perform well on these types of tests. So that's why it's so important to have different ways for students to express their knowledge acquisition. So I would say there are significant constraints with the traditional teaching methods. I think it's really important to try to differentiate um, learning, not only like engagement with the um, content, but also differentiating ways to represent it and express it as well. And then the last question is, does the age level of children change with their needs? And yes, definitely, especially between the younger grades like elementary school and junior high and high school. So for junior high and high school, we tend to see children becoming more independent, needing less rigid structure. And when it comes to elementary school and the younger kids, we see them typically thrive a bit more with structure or routine. So I wanted to quote the California Department of Education. They say firm limits and consistency for elementary age students creates a safe space for them to move around. LD online, early identification, and atypical development identification tells us that children gather information from people, things, and events in their environment, and they organize this information in their minds and code it in ways that keep it usable and easy to understand. So when it comes to middle childhood and middle school and high school, it's important to collaborate with the students so that they are a part of creating the norms and expectations, because when they feel like they've contributed, they are much more willing to cooperate and follow those norms. So thank you.